In the year 1812, there was a small town in western Louisiana. This town was not for people. It was a town for toads. The town was called Mud Bottom. It was a very nice place to live. The toad houses were made of mud and leaves. They were cozy and warm. The streets were soft and wet, just how toads like them. Tall reeds grew all around, making the town feel safe. The toads of Mud Bottom were a happy group of friends and neighbors who enjoyed their simple, quiet lives by the edge of a big, slow-moving bayou. The leader of Mud Bottom was Mayor Croaker. He was a very large toad with a deep, rumbling voice. When he said ribbit, all the other toads listened. Mayor Croaker was very popular. He always smiled a big, wide toad smile. He would hop through the town, patting young tadpoles on the head and asking older toads about their day. Everyone thought he was a wonderful mayor. They trusted him to make good choices for the town. The toads felt lucky to have such a kind and caring leader to guide them. Life in Mud Bottom was peaceful. The toads would spend their days sitting on lily pads. They would tell stories to each other. They would swim in the cool water of the bayou. In the evenings, they would gather to sing songs. Their deep voices would echo across the water. The fireflies would come out and dance in the dark, lighting up the town like tiny stars. It was a beautiful place, and all the toads worked together to keep it that way. They believed that by helping each other, their town would always be a wonderful home. Every toad in Mud Bottom had a job to do. Some toads were builders, and they fixed the mud houses when they got old. Other toads were weavers, and they made soft beds from river grass. Many toads were hunters, and it was their job to find food for everyone. They were a community that shared everything. If one toad found many juicy flies, he would share them with his neighbor. This was the way of Mud Bottom. This was the way it had always been, and the toads were proud of their cooperative and friendly little town. One day something changed. The food started to disappear. The hunters would go out all day long. They would look under rocks and behind big leaves. They would wait by the water's edge for hours, but they came back with very little food. The juicy flies were gone. The crunchy beetles were hard to find. The wiggly worms stayed deep in the mud. Soon the toads' bellies began to rumble with hunger. It was a sad and difficult time for everyone in the once plentiful town of Mud Bottom. The evenings were quieter now, as hungry toads had little energy for singing. Even though there was not much food, the toads of Mud Bottom still helped one another. They remembered their promise to share everything. If a family had one small beetle, they would split it into tiny pieces for everyone. A mother toad might find a single mosquito and give it to her smallest tadpole. The toads grew thinner, but their hearts grew bigger. They checked on their neighbors to make sure they were okay. They gave each other comforting pats on the back. They knew that facing this hard time together was the only way to get through it. Mayor Croaker told the town not to worry. He stood on a big flat rock and spoke in his loud, deep voice. "My dear toads," he said, "times are tough, but we are tougher. We must all be patient. The flies will return. The beetles will come back. We must all eat a little less for now." The toads listened to their mayor. They trusted him. They believed he was sharing in their hardship. They went back to their mud houses, their stomachs empty but their spirits hopeful because their leader had given them his word. The hunger continued for many weeks. The tadpoles were not growing as fast as they should. The older toads felt weak and tired all the time. The hunters felt sad because they could not provide for their families and friends. The whole town of Mud Bottom was covered in a quiet gloom. The once happy songs were replaced by worried whispers. The toads tried to stay strong, but it was getting harder every day. They looked to their mayor for answers, hoping he would soon find a way to bring the food back to their struggling community. Two young toads named Hoppy and Ribberta grew suspicious. They noticed that Mayor Croaker and his close friends did not look hungry at all. While other toads were getting thin, the mayor was still big and plump. His friends also looked well fed. Hoppy and Ribberta saw them whispering together in a corner of the town square, often laughing quietly. It did not seem right. If everyone was supposed to be hungry, why did the mayor and his friends look so healthy and content? They decided they needed to find out what was truly going on. One evening, Hoppy and Ribberta decided to follow the mayor. They hid behind the tall reeds, moving silently through the shadows. They watched as Mayor Croaker left his house. He did not go to the town square. He did not visit any hungry neighbors. Instead, he hopped to the very edge of the bayou to a place where a giant lily pad floated. It was the biggest lily pad anyone had ever seen, and it was the mayor's special meeting place. His friends were already there, waiting for him in the moonlight. Hoppy and Ribberta swam closer, staying hidden under the water with only their eyes sticking out. They could hear the mayor and his friends talking. "Did you bring the good stuff?" one friend asked. Mayor Croaker chuckled his deep, rumbling laugh. "Of course!" he boomed. He then lifted a corner of the giant lily pad. Underneath was a secret storage area. It was filled with food. There were jars full of fireflies, baskets of fat green caterpillars, and piles of crunchy crickets. It was a feast hidden away from the rest of the hungry town. The two young toads could not believe their eyes. They felt a mix of shock and anger. The mayor, who told them all to be patient and eat less, was keeping a huge supply of food for himself and his friends. He had lied to them all. This was not fair. All the other toads were sharing the little they had, while their leader was hoarding a treasure trove of delicious insects. Hoppy and Ribberta knew they had to tell everyone. The secret of the big lily pad had to be revealed to all the citizens of Mudbottom. The next morning, Hoppy and Ribberta gathered all the other toads in the town square. They stood on the big, flat rock where the mayor usually stood. At first, the other toads were confused, but when Hoppy and Ribberta told them what they had seen under the giant lily pad, a great croak of anger rose from the crowd. The toads felt betrayed. Their kind mayor was not kind at all. He was selfish. They decided they would not be hungry anymore. They would not let their families starve while the mayor feasted. This was the start of the Great Toad Rebellion. Led by Hoppy and Ribberta, a large crowd of toads marched toward the giant lily pad. They did not carry weapons. They carried their empty food baskets and their sense of justice. They chanted, "Fairness for all. Share the food." When they reached the bayou's edge, they saw Mayor Croaker and his friends having a big breakfast. They were so surprised to see the whole town there that they dropped their food. Mayor Croaker tried to use his big, booming voice. "Go back to your homes," he yelled. But this time, nobody listened to him. The toads surrounded the giant lily pad. Working together, they all pushed and pulled until they flipped it over. The hidden storage was revealed for everyone to see. All the jars and baskets of food tumbled into the open. The toads gasped. There was enough food to feed the entire town for weeks. The mayor's friends, seeing they were outnumbered, hopped away and hid in the mud. Mayor Croaker stood alone, looking not so big and powerful anymore. He was just a greedy toad who had been caught. The rebellion was a success without a single fight. The toads took the food and shared it equally among every family. Then, they held a town meeting and decided that Mayor Croaker could not be their leader anymore. They built a small, strong cage from thick reeds and put him in toad prison. Hoppy and Ribberta were chosen as the new leaders. They promised to always be fair and honest. With food back in their bellies, the town of Mudbottom began to flourish. News of the fair town spread, and soon new toad families moved in, making Mudbottom bigger and happier than ever before.